Good morning, WebSummit. I hope all of you are having good time. Now, we've got a perfect mix of an investor and a founder to talk about enterprise AI. But before that, I want to kind of dive into a bit of personal journey. I was a software engineer at one point in time, and I dealt with business intelligence. Uh, and, and I heard a lot of things about, intelligence will change the world. And this is more than a decade ago. And we are hearing very similar things right now that you get a lot of insights, you get them quickly, and that's going to change your business altogether. I want to dive into a bit about if we are talking about same things 10 years later, what has changed? What has Gen AI brought up in terms of use cases and in terms of speed of execution in the enterprise world? Both of you have seen a lot of things in terms of pitches coming across your desk and clients coming across your desk. Let's start with that, and I want to know your thoughts about the unimaginable possible use cases that you've thought of.
I think, is AI intelligence in a new metaphor? I think world has, truly transformed, especially in terms of intelligence is giving light in darkness of data, right? So the rate at which data has piled up at organizations in multimodal form, whether it's audio, video, structured, unstructured, to the acceptance of using data to make decisions. In the past, when someone said do something, you would probably not. You'd use the reports to follow your hypothesis. But now you're truly believing that AI can be a co-partner. The audacity of what you want to do in an organization with AI is changing. Audacity of what you want to do in a region is changing. We expect AI to completely transform Middle East and Qatar specifically, or even nation states. And that's because AI is going to bring in a quantum addition to, or multiplication to, with agentic AI, multiplication to number of even citizens, right? Sort of in some sense. So per person productivity gains are in the percentage points now, but they'll be in the 10x, 100x multiples. Inspiring keynote earlier from Amjad Replit, and it was interesting, right? He wants 1 billion software programmers. We think that we need 1 million billionaires. And the way to truly democratize that level of capital is by making a lot of entrepreneurs out of the people. And AI is a true thought partner for that change.
So obviously, companies can make, a lot of clients available their solution, but you have to pick and choose who you invest in. You mentioned the word audacious. What are the audacious things that you've come across? I mean, you're one of the biggest investors in companies like XAI. So why don't you tell us about what are some of the audacious things that you're seeing?
So in each company, be it the AI company or any other software technology company that we look at, we always have to try to evaluate what is the true underlying value add being provided by that company. Many companies calling themselves an AI company today may not truly be AI. It's an overlay. Every time it's really, really important to spend a very thoughtful and thorough process evaluating these things. So I don't want to name any company or any specific thing in particular.
And the title is obviously, and you folks talked about companies unlocking a lot of things through AI. How do you use AI to unlock things? What do you do in the investment world that is being changed by AI?
So a very easy approach is the number of vendors to provide in the application layer AI solutions that makes it faster and easier to absorb, especially the public available information. It makes it possible to understand what the company is truly doing, how they're performing, what is the market feedback across a larger number of resources than you were able to look at before.
See?
I think one of the things that we measure internally is revenue per or ARR per employee. And over the last we're beginning to see that We are increasing on the top, but we're able to do support, for example, with AI. We're able to use software development. A lot of we're a software and data company at the heart, so a lot of that is now using large language models to help with code, to code reviews, quality testing, adversarial testing, making sure a lot of the evaluation policy frameworks and see if we fit into different policy frameworks. All of that would have needed people. And I think a lot of that is absolutely become AI. A lot of the customer care, customer conversations are much better with AI than by just throwing people at the problem. Sometimes even looking at where we are missing the boat, right? So, for example, strategically, the space changes so fast, we actually use agents to even summarize what's going on a daily, weekly basis. So we can start seeing if you miss something, even amongst the whole team of incredible AI data scientists and grandmasters and innovators I have, will still, sometimes AI is able to pull up things that we might have missed across the whole spectrum of innovation.
You mentioned that, strategy is a key part to implement AI or even look at AI. Now, in an enterprise world, you can't really move fast and break things. Enterprise is pretty slow. But like you said, we're seeing new models every day. How do you keep up with that, and how do you kind of reap benefits of that? What's the strategy that you use for both yourselves and clients as well?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question, and I'll tie it back to your original opening question. How are customers using this, right? So fraud prevention was always there, right? Sort of predictive analytics. Some of the core algorithms are able to look at transactional data, find, pinpoint. But after fraud prevention, after alerting a fraudulent transaction, one of my customers, it goes to a phone call. Now, during the phone call, there's a 15-minute, sometimes 45-minute wait. So that time, can I bring it down? Because that's actually a lot of back and forth of human conversations. Can I now bring that down by 10x or 5x so that you don't have the most valuable customer waiting at a store instead of buying a big phone, for example? So scams, what scamsters have done is now they've used generative AI to produce almost very looking very similar to very good text messages or emails. And so they're targeting citizens. So instead of banks becoming now robust, so in banking, telco, they've embraced a lot of generative and predictive AI to safeguard transactions. But then fraudsters have gone after citizens who are not so well prepared. So I think a lot of my customers are beginning to think about their clients and trying to build robust mechanisms to protect their end users. The call centers have been a big play for generative AI. And the initial play was bring it with OpenAI, and then it became very expensive because of the token-based pricing, which is broken. And I think open source truly unlocked that.
Yeah.
We are able to now do a lot of those with a fraction of the cost and give about the same or even better accuracy with distilled, fine-tuned models. So, but going back to the rate at which the industry is changing and the rate at which customers are moving, I think customers are doing the right things in that sense. The regulated industry they play in, they're careful about not hurting the customer, their clients, the consumers, by moving too fast. But at the same time, they're picking partners who can adapt rapidly. Instead of the survival of the fittest, right? The smartest, not people who can adapt faster, as opposed to the largest company today, or the largest language model today, or the team with the largest number of AI researchers today.
Sure. Anders, I wanted to touch upon one thing about what is your thesis about building investments? Say if you have $1 million to give, do you pick a company which is working on solving core problems of the business, or do you look at the company which is doing deep research in terms of building models or core technology around AI?
So first of all, we have a very thorough and disciplined approach across investment in all sectors. We have subsector teams with subject matter expertise looking at each of these opportunities. Taking a very long-term approach, we're looking for the companies that are going to be the leaders within each of these segments. And then we look at applying a number of criteria across these assets to see whether or not these companies are going to be in that leading position. Many of those aspects are the same, whether it's an AI company or any other technology company. So we look at the product. Is it adding true value add in terms of providing operational efficiencies? Does it help enhance the sales motion? Does it provide value to the end user of the customer? Then we look at the management teams, and this is critical. Is that the founder and a management team that can deliver that market-leading product, that can engage both with investors and with buyers of a product? Finally, is it a management team that can scale an organization as the business grows? When we look at the AI companies, there's a few additional aspects worth looking at. It includes the first mover advantages and disadvantages. As a first mover, you might have an advantage in terms of market recognition. However, the follower might have a much lower cost profile. Do you have access to compute infrastructure to develop your product and to deliver it in the future? Do you have enough capital? AI is still in its infancy, and as such, we have to assume that with several changes in technology, as well as in market environment over years to come. So you need to be able to keep raising funding. And finally, the talent. You have to think about whether or not this is a company that is able to keep that talent pool that you have today, be that in terms of incentive structure, in terms of culture, in terms of the mission of a company. And then you have to be able to gain new talent going forward. And to evaluate all of this, we have a very thorough process where we allocate a lot of internal and external resources to that diligence, both before a deal and throughout the transaction process.
Can you give me a bit of idea about the filters that you have in terms of rejecting the pitches? You said that you want to not invest in companies which are merely thin layers of AI or not really bringing innovation to the table. What are the filters that you look at while investing?
So I think one of the key points here is the management team and the talent pool. Because, as I mentioned, technology will change. The use cases will change. The company that looks perfectly positioned today can be old news in even a week. You go on holiday for a week in this industry, and the news flow that you might have missed out is immense. So if you have the right team in place, they're able to pivot these things and kind of adjust the business and align to what happens tomorrow.
The first one will later be last, right, as Dylan would say. But I would, I mean, even as we run our own business, right, so it's clear that people flock, great talent comes in clusters. Greatness in general comes in clusters, and that's what's happened. That was the dream we had, which was with AI, bring the world's best minds when we set out to do it 12 years ago, to all think about AI and bring changes there. But I think culture, just double-clicking on, is dovetails with the purpose as well. So as we set out the purpose to democratize AI like water, make it everywhere, we found that doing AI for good is actually a definitive dimension we
How do you define good, though?
I mean, in grassroots sense, give, like for example, we were able to predict wildfires or hurricanes, right, unrelated to our core business. So bushfires in Australia became a project we were working on, which led to Commonwealth Bank of Australia becoming a large customer of ours as well. Or education, health, right? Sort of democratizing health is a very core thesis, right? Fighting cancer is why we started H20.ai. Well, I think that kind of ability to kind of take on big, audacious problems, and in the path to that, there's so many different innovations that need to be done to unlock it. Language, I mean, being able to fluently communicate, Arabic LLMs are here. And so being able to communicate across multiple different geographies with short span of time. But in general, democratizing this superpower to everyone so that then it, in open source, brings incredible innovation across the whole planet.
I want to quickly touch upon the idea of security and privacy in enterprise world. Now, naturally, there are more and more models coming up. DeepSeek is one of the prime examples of what we have seen. In in the first party mode, there is concern about data leaks and data being given to China. Uh, but it obviously has an open source model that you can use and control the data. How do you make these choices in terms of a fast moving world to switch between models and picking the right technology stack, both in terms of efficiency, privacy, and security?
It's a great question, actually. We, every one of our customers have their own benchmarks. We have our own benchmarks as well. We saw SVBench mentioned earlier. Gaia is another big benchmark, which almost mimics human level HLE, human last exam, humanities last exam. I think there's these key benchmarks across which some of the models are really doing very well. At the heart of it is, if we get coding, very high-grade coding, agents are translating English to code, right, and data science. So suddenly, coders and data scientists have been commodified to a large degree. So good coding agents, and then good coding, safely coding agents, which is, can I now put it in a non-jailbreakable container and deploy it in a way that it doesn't inject itself with malware, things like that. So a lot of that safety around agentic AI is a place we're spending a lot of time. But DeepSeek is not I mean, they call it the Sputnik movement, but I think it's the open source movement, right? So the open source AI has trounced OpenAI at this point. And I think we think that it's it's not going back. It's irreversible change. And in the history of technology, open source eventually triumphs. And so as a result, open source models are going to continuously get better. So DeepSeek obviously spun off a Stanford $300 model. And the continued commodification of the models.
We have 30 seconds left, so I'm going to ask you a rapid fire question. Because the title of the talk is AI and automation, I want to ask you, what are the places where AI is not that efficient, yes, and where you don't use AI? Instead, you believe that the methods that you have currently is more efficient? Quickly.
So when accessing private data, especially outside of your own network, so to say, it will take time before, when we're looking at an investment and looking at the data room, when will you be able to apply a model on that data pool? That will take time.
Got it. Shri?
AI is not going to replace the human touch of things, right? Sort of like a nurse or a kindergarten teacher. Those things are truly the human touch. Whatever gives you deep feeling is still what we were meant to be as spiritual machines. So I think AI is going to make us want to be more human as a result of that. But almost everything else I've seen, there's not a single use case where customers have not applied AI.
Yeah.
Especially for management specifically, AI can truly bring a scale, which wouldn't be possible. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sri. Thanks, Anders. Thanks a lot, folks, for sticking around and listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you.